There's never been a moment like this in cinema. We have been anticipating Christopher Nolan's next movie, The Odyssey, for years now. Ever since he made Oppenheimer and got that blank check because it made almost $1 billion to go and make whatever he wanted, and he decided he wanted to make The Odyssey. All of us movie fans were like, yes, a sword and sandal, let's go. But with all the money behind it, like, this is going to be epic. Of course it's going to be great. And we have been looking forward to this movie for so long. And what's weird about that is that there have been movies that have been anticipated like this, but they're all unique stories. Like, they're all movies that you don't know what's going to happen. And the difference with this one is that this is an ancient story. The Odyssey is a thing. You could go and read it. You could go and look on Wikipedia and know exactly what happens with Odysseus. So all of us as movie fans were looking forward to this movie, not necessarily for the story, but just for Christopher Nolan. For Christopher Nolan to make that movie. So did it live up to the hype? Today on This Movie Got Me, we're talking about The Odyssey.
Who has a story about Odysseus? Some say he's in prison. Some say he perished.
Where is he? Where is he? Where is he?
Let's go!
The Odyssey, in theaters everywhere.
On this podcast, I'm trying to talk about movies in a way of how they connected with me. So this movie got me. The Odyssey got me inspired. Inspired for what movies could be again. Let's answer that question. Did The Odyssey live up to the hype? Absolutely it did. 100% it did, which is crazy because the hype was so high. This is like the LeBron James of movies, okay? Where you have so much anticipation. LeBron in high school being called the chosen one. And then he has, if not the best, one of the best careers in the NBA. That's The Odyssey. The anticipation was through the roof. Everyone was claiming this is going to be the movie of all movies in this decade. And you know what? It is. It is a masterpiece. It is incredible. It is filled with so much love, which was surprising to me. All right, I've read The Odyssey. I'm a huge fan of that stuff. And so, like, I know that there's a romance in it. Obviously, Penelope has so much loyalty for Odysseus, but everyone loved this man who knew him. And, like, while he is flawed as heck, you know, all these mistakes that he makes, and Christopher Nolan, he just shows that so wonderfully throughout the movie of all these problems and issues. Like, people are talking about how this is the ultimate hero story. It's not. It's not a hero story. Even though he does plenty of heroic things throughout the film, he also is an incredibly flawed character. And Nolan was able to show that so well. Let's talk about some of the themes in this movie, because, like, we'll get to the visuals and the Cyclops and the action and so many cool moments that happen. We'll get to that in a bit. But the themes are what hit me probably the hardest about this movie. And one is obviously the theme of a man returning home. But he returns home in such a way that he is basically set to be diametrically opposed to Robert Pattinson's Antinous. And so you have Odysseus and Antinous, and they both have made huge mistakes. And that's one of the things I love about this movie is that, like, yeah, the heroic stuff happens, but, you know, Odysseus makes a lot of mistakes, and he becomes a kind of person that he never wanted to be, and that Penelope would not recognize. But he had to do that in order to come home. But he is sorry about it. Like, there are some moments in this film at the end that, I mean, I cried. I don't usually cry in a movie theater. I don't get especially proud. We live in this weird age where, like, everyone was like, how many times did you cry? And it's like this badge of honor for watching a film. I'm not that way. But when I see something that's beautiful, I can't help it. And there are several moments toward the end where you see Odysseus just grapple with the kind of person he has become, and how he doesn't honor Zeus's rule or law, which we'll talk about that here in a minute. But he wrestles with that at the end of how he can, kind of repent of that and pay some penance for all of that. And then you have Antinous, who basically tricked his way out of not going to war, right? Like so many rich kids. And he's lied about it, and he's tried to use that as like this favoring thing of like, I would have gone, but Odysseus said that I shouldn't. So I'm Odysseus's guy here in Ithacus. And it's just like, what a liar, what a conniving, manipulative little twerp. And like, we see that throughout the movie, especially at the end. But at the end, he doesn't repent of it. He doesn't pay penance. And the penance that he actually ends up paying is death. Like, this is a spoiler podcast, I guess. I should probably say that, this is only like the 4th episode. But my idea with talking about these movies is that you have seen them. So I'm not going to be like, oh, spoilers and non-spoilers. It's all a spoiler podcast. And also spoilers for a 3,000-year-old story. But the theme of like actually trying to turn the page on your mistakes and failures, and to see that through the lens of these two different characters and how they deal with their failures and the ways that they have changed as a person, the things that they have done to survive or to get to the place that they want. That I thought was beautiful. Now, also, there is a theme here of Zeus's rule, which I think is a little bit more ideal in this movie than in actual history. This is a historical thing. There is such a thing as Zeus's law, but it was mostly about entertaining strangers. Because like in Greek mythology, it's a constant, like the gods are constantly taking on human form or some kind of form and mixing it up with human beings. And usually it ends up in someone getting tortured. It's not usually pleasant, but like that is an interesting thing for Nolan to have taken from that and to then use it as like this, basically this way of looking at how the world is changing. And he uses Odysseus in this way to show how he has changed. But the reason why he has changed is because of his fear of others and losing like the ability to get back home because of who that other person might be, that threat might be. And he is becoming the men from the sea, is how Penelope puts it in this theme throughout. I don't fully understand that. I need to see this a couple more times. I think that Penelope was trying to say that he was becoming like them, but I don't know. Maybe it's also that they are literally those guys that people kept talking about. I don't know. I'll have to see a couple more times, but I'm going to go with the interpretation that it's about these guys becoming like those people, these raiders, these pillagers, because they just keep on going into land, stealing food, taking over, and then going and trying to get home. And then more bad things just keep on happening. So they become these monsters, and they lose sight of Zeus's law, which is to treat other people like you would be treated. Now, biblically, that's the golden rule, and that's something that Jesus teaches. Zeus, on the other hand, is more about like, hey, if I show up as a beggar, you better be nice because I'll torture you if you don't. So that's Zeus's rule. But Nolan, he takes that idea and he's basically saying to us that we need to be careful about how we treat the others, the people who aren't like us, the foreigners, maybe even, to not get too political, but the immigrant. How you view them. If you're living in fear, you might lose your nobility. Odysseus even jokes about like your ability to write. Like you might lose civilization because of fear of what those others might do and how they might take your place or take your things, how they might affect you. I thought that was really amazing that Nolan took this story and built those kinds of themes throughout it. All right, that's probably too much politics. Let's start talking about this actual movie that sold those themes. And first, we got to talk about the acting. The acting is so good in this movie, so powerful. Anne Hathaway, I did not know that Anne Hathaway had this in her. Like, I know she's done some good movies, all right? I'm not trying to take away anything from her, but like, this is like top tier acting. Like, Anne Hathaway's performance, I think, like, got me emotional. She sold this story of just a loyal wife holding out for her husband, knowing that he's gonna come home. And even when her son comes to her with this plan of taking the throne that actually seems pretty viable, she's just like, no, I'm not here to play games. I want my husband. I want Odysseus. And she storms out. That got me teary-eyed. That is love. Like, Christopher Nolan is not known for romance in his movies. A lot of his movies have like a tragic romance in it. You know, like you have Dark Knight Rises, Talia dies, right? Like you have the wife dying in Inception. Like, that's usually what Nolan does for romance. But in this movie, it's romantic as anything else I've seen. Like, it's beautiful. Anne Hathaway sold that performance because, like, it's a romance, but you barely see the two together. It's just basically Anne Hathaway's pining for her husband that you understand, like, the level of adoration that she has for him and he for her. And it's just beautiful. Her performance to me is probably the best performance of this movie. And I would say if she doesn't get a nomination for an Oscar, if not winning, I think she should win. Like, we're all talking about obsession and that performance. To me, I would say this is a better performance. It's not as showy because, you know, you're not going from like hot to cold so fast. But I would just say this is a stronger performance. I think that Anne Hathaway should win an Oscar for this movie. I was not expecting to have said that when I went into the movie. Odysseus. A lot of people might look at Matt Damon's performance as Odysseus and just see, you know, a strong leader. But there is a weight that he carries in this movie, and it's an interesting choice for him to just constantly have the guilt laid on him, the responsibility that he has for these men. It's not just about him getting home. It's the responsibility that he feels for his men, for what he did at Troy, for what might be happening in Ithaca, what's going on with his wife and his son, all of that. That guilt he just carries throughout the movie, and it makes it that much more powerful for when he goes from guilt to rage. And when he shows that rage, like that line delivery, when John Leguizamo, who is he stole the movie, and there's Anne Hathaway and then John Leguizamo, he is so good in this movie. We'll get there. But when he says that, will Odysseus bring vengeance? And Matt Damon gives that line that we heard in the trailer.
Bringing vengeance.
Bringing it all.
Put my fists up. I was like, yeah, dude, bringing it all. It just felt like so full of just righteous indignation, just rage against what has happened to his city. And I don't think that would make sense if it weren't for the guilt that he felt throughout the entirety of the movie. And that choice, I feel, made it that much more impactful when Matt Damon was like bringing it all. It was great. But outside of Anne Hathaway, probably the performance that I think should be Oscar winning is John Leguizamo. This guy has been a phenomenal actor for a very long time. And I'm just so glad that he's able to like bring all of that and show it off for everyone. Because a lot of times he's there for like the quick banter. You know, he is a fast talker. He's got a unique voice. So like in movies like the like Chef, he's awesome in. But this movie, he was able to show the emotion, and man, he got me. He got me several times because it is just this friend who is loyal, just like Penelope. But he is just holding out hope that his master will be coming back, a loyal servant, a loyal friend. I cried several times. There were several moments, especially when it came to like Odysseus in disguise as this Trojan War veteran coming in and having these discussions and just giving like a little bit of hope and confidence to his friend. I just thought it was beautiful. It was a beautiful performance. Even a line that some people might look at as a joke, but for me, when he is saying, "Is it done? Is he alive? Is he dead?" He's so concerned for Odysseus, and I'm even getting emotional just thinking about it. Like that line delivery, it's not humor. It is a blind man just desperate to find out, is my friend alive? And I just thought it was a beautiful performance. Just there are so many like that. Everyone is great in this movie. Even Gary Petir. Gary Petir gives a great performance in the Odyssey. I didn't know he was going to be in this, but as soon as I saw Mentor is his name in this movie, training Tom Holland's character, the movements, they didn't even show his face. It's like, that's Petir. I know Petir. Whenever I see Ryan Hurst or I see Wood Harris on screen, I get so excited because I loved Remember the Titans as a teenager.
I swear to God, I'm gonna hit you so hard by the time you come to, ooh, boy, you're gonna need a new haircut. You understand me? Let's play, fellas.
I get thrilled when I see Gary Petir training away. And he has actually one of my favorite moments, another moment where I got teary-eyed, because at the end, he's dying, and he just gives like this little head nod of recognition, and it's just a beautiful little moment between him and Odysseus. It's so quick, like maybe a second long, but I just thought, like, there it is, man. Ryan Hurst is a good performer. I'm excited. He's getting into more projects like this, and the God of War series he's going to be in. I just hope that like Gary Petir gets his day, because that was just so much fun to see him on screen like that. I mean, I could talk all day about the acting in this movie because everyone has their moments, but I guess that's also storytelling. The fact that everyone gets to have those kinds of performances tell you how well developed this story is. Now, I know a lot of people are going to find some issues with the dialogue and, how Tom Holland says dad and mom, like that's a talking point. Personally, I don't care. It didn't take me out of the movie, but I thought the dialogue was fine. I don't think it's especially great, but that's only part of the storytelling. The script is also what happens on screen and the way that it happens. And this might be one of Nolan's tightest scripts since The Prestige, because Nolan is a filmmaker that has one extra tool in his tool set that a lot of filmmakers don't even think about, and that is time. He uses time like it's a tool. He uses the telling of a story and going back and forth in time to be able to highlight different things, to be able to speak to different issues that rise within the story. He doesn't tell things in a linear way where everything is just, here's what happened, this, then this, then this. It's this, then this, but also back then there was this, and in the future there will be this, and that's why this is happening. That's how Nolan tells stories, and sometimes that could be really hard to follow for people, like Tenet. I think it's probably one of those moments where you're like, what even is happening for some people? I didn't think that, but some people might have issues with that movie. But in this one, I thought it was perfection. Like, this use of time for Christopher Nolan was absolutely perfect. And it just shows how far Nolan has come to where, like, yes, Memento, he was doing that too. He's been working on that all the way back then. His entire filmography, he has been building this muscle memory of being able to tell the story in a non-linear fashion. And in the Odyssey, it's perfection. Every time you have a question, he answers it. Every time you want to see something, he shows you it. Maybe not exactly when you want it, but that's when he builds the anticipation. When Agamemnon, when he's talking about how he wasn't welcomed home the way he wanted to be, you're like, oh, dang, I wish we could see that. I hope we see that. And you do. He just builds the anticipation for that scene. So when it comes on, you're like, oh, yeah. But I never felt lost. I never felt like it was meandering. I never felt like we were getting needless information. I thought like that is just Nolan being Nolan to the most Nolan degree I've ever seen. Does that make sense? This is the Odyssey for Nolan, not just in that he wanted to tell the story of the Odyssey, but it is his journey as a filmmaker, showing the progression of all of his skills, the filmmaking. Yes, the IMAX cameras that everyone is talking about. But I mean, that's part of it, right? Like the fact that he was able to get those IMAX cameras to work and not be super loud. And he doesn't just use it for the action scenes. He uses it for all of it. That's a progression in Nolan's filmmaking skills. The fact that they were able to get him up on a mountainside. Like, you got to be a pretty talented filmmaker to figure out how you can do all that. And sure, he's got a huge team behind him. Everyone at Syncope or whatever his company is, like that, like, I'm sure it is a team effort 100%. But all of that starts with Nolan. And then the colors in this movie, he uses the skies like it's a paintbrush. We've seen this throughout his movies, like the blues and the oranges. He is like a classic cinema guy. Everything is crisp and clean, but he loves those colors, and the skies are filled with those colors in the Odyssey. I mean, you can look at the Dark Knight poster and see, okay, that's the colors of a Nolan movie, and you see him in the Odyssey, and it doesn't feel out of place at all. It only adds to it. Oh my goodness, that whole scene in Hades, I thought was incredible. The look of it, the vibe of it, and that leads me to asking the question, is the Odyssey a horror movie? Because it checks all of the boxes. The main box, is it scary? Absolutely. There are some moments that are actually terrifying in this movie. Like everything with the Cyclops that we saw in the trailer, incredible. The creature design, all of that. Like, does it have monsters? Yes, it's got the Cyclops. There are other monsters in this movie. Is there a witch like you would find in a horror movie? Yeah, there's even a witch. Are there ghosts? Are there blood sacrifices? Is hell involved? Yep, check all the boxes. So to me, the Odyssey is a horror movie in a way. Maybe not the main genre, but I think it would be fair to categorize it as a horror movie. And that is just so interesting coming from Nolan. It might not be a traditional horror movie, but there are tons of that in there. And it just makes this movie such a thrill ride. But sometimes with a thrill ride, it could get a little loud. And I would say that's probably my main issue with this movie, and it's not even that big of an issue, but there are a couple scenes where I was like, dang, this movie is way too loud for me. And I would say it's not too loud to where you can't hear the dialogue. I know some people might be saying that. That has been an issue in Nolan movies in the past. For me, I heard every word. Like, I wasn't struggling to hear the dialogue, but there were just a couple scenes that were just stinking loud.
I'm afraid you're just too darn loud.
But other than that, like, I would just say this movie just knocks it out of the park with the sound of it. The score is awesome. Oh my goodness. All right, we could talk about the bowstring. The bowstring. Ludwig Göransson is doing something so interesting in this movie. He took that beautiful bowstring that we see several times that Nolan uses. That is his item. You know, Nolan, sometimes he has an item that he uses to communicate the story. You could think of like the spinning top in Inception. He has an item. And in this movie, the item is that bow, and specifically that bowstring. And he uses that throughout the movie to communicate just like an attention-grabbing moment, but also like a calmness like I got this kind of moment. And so when that bowstring happens at the end, you're just like, oh, heck yeah. Oh, yes. And it's just so rad, man. But Ludwig Göransson takes that bowstring and kind of uses it throughout the score to kind of just calm us down and to kind of transition us. And just, it builds that anticipation throughout the movie. Like, yes, like Nolan is doing that with the visuals of it and the storytelling of it, but also the music is driving us to the end. And that's what I would say, like, for my last big point here, is that this might be one of my favorite endings of all time. All time. I would say in every single movie, this might be one of my favorite endings of all time. It is that good. The buildup is so intense that you're just wanting Odysseus to get some revenge. You want Penelope to not have to deal with these suitors anymore. You want Odysseus' son to be king. You want these guys to die, especially Antinous, that rotten Robert Pattinson. You want him dead. And you get all of it. You get all of it, and you get like Antinous hiding behind the column, get the spear, you know, just being like a little rat over there throughout it. And you're just waiting for that moment when he's going to pay for it and get the shame that he is owed, which was also such a cool moment. I just thought everything about that ending, the fights, the brutality of it, the rage, and then the love after it. And like little even soft moments of the servant lady looking at the scar on Odysseus's leg from the boar, and how she's the one who gave him those stitches and realizes it's him, and he holds her face. It's perfection. It's perfection. That ending is perfect. You might have issues with other parts of the movie. I don't, but you might. But this ending, I don't think anyone could argue that this ending is perfection. It is incredible how they ride off to the sunset. I love that, to go pay homage to the fallen. Like, all of it was beautiful. I love this. I'm so happy Christopher Nolan made this movie and that it lived up to the hype, because this is a movie that could have come out and been such a disappointment. You know, what if it was so flawed? What if it was bad? You know, like it could have been, but it wasn't. Thank God for that. Oh man, Christopher Nolan, thank you for this movie. It was such a pleasure to watch. I'm going to watch it a bunch more times. Is it my favorite Christopher Nolan movie? Oh boy, I love Nolan. So yes, it is. I love Nolan and I love a lot of those movies, but this movie is top tier for me. I don't know where it's going to end up on my favorite movies of all time, but this is definitely going to be my favorite movie of the year, unless something comes out and just blows my mind. But this movie already did that. My mind's gone, y'all. If you're listening to this podcast still and you're like, oh my goodness, this guy, all he did was just like gush about this movie forever and how much he loved every single part of it, 100%. 100%. That's me, man. I'm sorry. I'm a shill for this movie. No one paid me, except for myself, to say how much I love this movie, because it is just, it's a perfect film. Other than that little sound thing, which to me I can get past, I think it's a perfect movie, and I loved it, and I love the themes. I hope that we can be kinder to each other, that we can not lose sight of others in our life, and treat the stranger well, so that we can have a civilization. I hope we learn from this. I hope we can grow. I hope that we can be what Ithacus could be with the right leader. And maybe that's Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan for president? Maybe. I don't know. What do you think about this? Let me know down in the comment section, or leave a response wherever you're watching or listening. Hit the like button, subscribe, all those kinds of things. Follow me on Instagram at MovieMud, because that's where I post a lot of the shorts and stuff. And sometimes they're shorts from this podcast, and sometimes they're just normal shorts and Instagram reels. So maybe check that out, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.